Hello wonderful person, this is Anton, and in today's video we're going to be talking about a new discovery of yet another interesting exoplanet that seems to resemble our planet Earth. This one is not too far away from us, and it was actually discovered by people from my home University of McGill. Anyway, welcome to What the Math. So this is not exactly the planet we're going to go to because it doesn't really exist in Space Engine just yet, but its neighbor does. So, alright, let's talk a little bit about the story behind this discovery and how it all occurred. My home University of McGill in Montreal, Canada actually has this really cool exoplanet research facility. And several of the scientists in this facility were kind of looking at this particular region of space where a star by the name of K2-18 resided. And this is the star. This is a red dwarf, not particularly special in any way, as red dwarfy as they get. It's about 111 light years away from our home planet, and we were looking at what we thought was a discovery of a planet. And here, if I actually enable planets, you'll see that there is a planet, and it's known as K2-18b. Let's go check it out. So this exoplanet was discovered back in 2015. Now, we were looking at it, and we just tried to kind of basically study the density, the size, the mass of this planet. And as the scientists were looking at it, they realized something wasn't really adding up. Well, first of all, they were able to very accurately predict the actual density and size and mass of this planet to approximately 8 or so masses of Earth, with the average density of about 3.3, which is kind of lower than Earth. I guess it's even lower than Mars in that sense. So it's possible that this is a planet that might have more liquid stuff on it. But we also realized that it was actually very nicely placed in the habitable zone, so it probably receives just a little bit more, or maybe about the same amount of radiation as our own planet. So in other words, this is actually a much warmer world than what appears right here in Space Engine. And as we were looking at this planet and studying it a little bit, we realized that there was another planet here. And as a matter of fact, unfortunately this planet is not present in Space Engine yet, but this was a planet known as K2-18c, and we're going to try to recreate this in Space Engine right after landing and exploring this beautiful object. So the cool thing about this particular planet is that we now think that it's probably terrestrial, even though it might have more, or I guess less dense materials on the surface. It's very likely a large terrestrial object with a very massive amount of material inside, of about 8 masses of Earth. And it's also possible that this planet also has a very large envelope of gas around it, making it a little bit less dense than our planet Earth. So anyway, we're not really talking about this discovery, we're talking about the other discovery of K2-18c. So let's go into Universe Sandbox. And so the K2-18 system is already actually here in Universe Sandbox, but like it is in Space Engine, there's only one planet around it, and there it is. Actually, wow, it has an old name, and also old parameters. So we're going to erase this and add our own K2-18 object using what we know about it now. So here we go, it's about 8 masses of Earth, and it's going to be about 3.3 densities, approximately, so at least. The material here is mostly water, some silicates, a lot of iron. So for the most part, as you can see, it sort of looks like a water world, which is actually pretty exciting. It's probably some kind of a rocky terrestrial water world. The surface temperature here is very comfortable, 14 degrees, maybe 15 degrees Celsius, but that's the world that we knew about, and we think that's probably habitable. Now let's look at the other one we found, and one thing about it, and the reason we didn't see it before, is because it's not in the same line of orbit. It's actually, it has its own plane of orbit. And the object here is, well, you can see the problem. It's a lot closer to the star. As a matter of fact, it's about 2.4 times closer. It has the orbital period of about 9 days, and it's way, way, way within the not so habitable zone. It's basically where our Venus is, at least in terms of the amount of heat it gets. So we can kind of see this here, and this is what it looks like. Actually, Venus is more around here. This is more where Mercury is even. So because of this, you'll see that this particular world is not going to be very hospitable. As a matter of fact, all of the water that was present here evaporated and disappeared. And so this is probably a kind of a scorched planet with the mass of about 7.5 masses of Earth, and has somewhat unusual but also very interesting parameters. So, for example, we didn't really expect to find such a massive planet so close to the red dwarf. And this red dwarf, if you look at its mass, is, in comparison to our sun at least, only about 40% the mass of our sun. So this is like finding a very massive planet very, very close to the parent star. And to make this more realistic, we actually have to change the actual inclination of the planet, because it's not inclined at the same angle. So this is why we didn't really see it at first, because it moves at a slightly different angle. Maybe not so extreme as you see here, but it's not in the same plane of orbit. And so this also implies that maybe, just maybe, K2-18 has more planets for us to discover and more mysteries. Now, even though this is a new discovery and a really interesting hot terrestrial planet that might be kind of interesting to explore one day, it's really the old object, the object known as K2-18b, that we are so interested in. So yes, it does have low density, it has a very, very huge amount of mass compared to our planet Earth, but it's in a habitable zone. It's the temperature here is probably just a little bit hotter than Earth, and it potentially is a water world, or at least some kind of a world that we've never seen or observed before. So exploring this particular object might be very, very interesting to us. So anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about in this video. I wanted to show you what we've discovered, and specifically wanted to talk about how amazing people at my old university are, and how they were able to discover quite a lot of cool things. This is also the same university where they discovered the fastest moving pulsar, about which I talked about previously, and they even have something known as McGill Pulsar Group, where they basically just discover neutron stars, magnetars, pulsars, and so on. So it's a cool university, definitely something I miss from my life, in a sense, because I had some really good times when I went there. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you learned something from this video. And before we finish this video, let's maybe activate the supernova of this planet, of the star that is, and watch what happens. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Space out, and as always, bye-bye.